Baruch Shalom should help you, Azriel, and mitzvah Hashem should go into a big Ben Torah, to a Yiras Shamayim, the true sense of the word. We should see from you big Yiddish and Achas, and mitzvah Hashem be zoicha to share with you and your wonderful mishpacha many simchas in the future.
And now I call on one of the Rebbitzins in my house, Gabriella.
We are all here to help Azriel, my parents, grandparents, friends, and relatives celebrate Azriel's bar mitzvah. It is obviously a very big event, even bigger than my bat mitzvah was. I really must discuss that with my parents. Let me now talk to my brother Azriel. Being such a big Talmid Chacham, he tells me he is, you of course know that there are many cases of sisterly love told about in the Torah. In chronological order, they are Rivka and Lavan. No love lost there. Lavan was willing to get rid of her, and we are sure that Rivka wanted to go. The next story is one of two sisters, Rachel and Leah. We know that Yaakov really wanted to marry Rachel, and was afraid that Lavan would somehow trick him and try to substitute Leah. So he and Rachel had a set of secret codes worked out to prevent this. Rachel went and taught these codes to her sister, so that she wouldn't be embarrassed. She was willing to give up her husband to save her sister from shame. Leah, we are told, also prayed that she shouldn't have a seventh son, so that Rachel would not have less sons than the Shechot. The two sisters really cared for each other. Continuing on, we come to the story of Dinah and her brothers. We know that she was taken captive, and her brothers, Shimon and Levi, went out to get her back. Like Yaakov said to them, they risked being killed with a goyim to save her. The whole story of her capture and rescue is well documented in Chumash Bereshit. In all of these stories, it has always been the younger sister. She was the key part of the story. Not until we got to Sefer Shemot do we meet the real star, the older sister. Without the older sister, who knows what would have been the fate of the Jews. Not only does Miriam have the guts to stay along the banks of the river, I'm sure her parents weren't thrilled about her staying out by herself, hanging in the side streets of what must have been a very tough neighborhood, to watch out for her little brother. After the Pharaoh's daughter pulls her brother out of the water, Miriam has the nerve to approach Pharaoh's daughter with a plan to help her brother. Without all of her intervention, who knows if Moshe would have been Moshe. Many years later, Miriam, this same great sister, this prophetess, tries to speak to her little brother. She tries to give him Musa. She tries to show him what she feels is the error of his ways. She gets leprosy and she is kicked out of the Machane and must spend 7 days in isolation. In the parsha that Azriel read, it tells us that we must remember what God did to Miriam in the desert. It is considered by some a zechira, like the one we have about Amalek. In the spirit of this famous sister, I must tell you, Azriel, that I will no longer, God forbid, give you Musa. That you are great, you are not too concerned with the way your hair looks, you are not too involved with your clothes, you don't think that you are the greatest baseball, basketball, Game Boy, chess, and backgammon player. You don't think that you must attend every oneg and be the star of the show. I must say that you really did a good job yesterday at shul. I don't remember our family ever going to shul that early before. It was really special, and so are you. Mazel tov, and hope we always stay as close and friendly as we have been until now.
Now we come to the last speaker. Only if I can find my stage. People always assume that the husband or father gets up to speak at the bar mitzvah celebration because he has to. I'm not starting again. Being forced either by custom or because his wife ordered him to. In this case, it's just not true. Judy asked me to speak. She asked me very nicely. So let me just add my few words of welcome and thanks to all of you for coming to help our family celebrate this simcha. It's very special for the Zaidi David, Bobby Feige part of the family This is the only grandchild to be bar mitzvah. Azriel loves to be reminded of that and to remind everyone else of it. And for the Zaidi Mailach Babilani side of the family, this is the first grandchild to be bar mitzvah. Thanks to all of you for messing up or just rearranging your holiday weekend schedule to include a trip to the beach today. A Sudas mitzvah for Azriel always seems to revolve around the holiday weekend. This one is, of course, on Labor Day, and many of you remember Azriel's bris, Lodi's many years ago, happened not only on the July 4th weekend, but also on Shavuos or B'Tammuz. So that really screwed up a lot of people's days. I'm really glad that you could all make it. You've already heard Divrei Torah from the Bar Mitzvah boy himself, from his sometimes loving sisters, from Amora Dasser of Kraus, and from Azriel's Rebbe, Rabbi Herzberg. So you can relax. I won't confuse the issue or myself by getting into some long, deep Talmudic pilpul. Sorry if anybody's disappointed with that. What I want to say is simply that in Parshas Ki Tetzei we learn a very simple principle. It's the principle of Hakaras HaTov, acknowledging the good. In the Parsha that has 72 or 74 different mitzvahs, many of which are considered basic and fundamental to Yiddishkeit, one of the most puzzling, most repeated, and most stressed mitzvahs is the mitzvah Shluach HaKan, sending away the mother bird and keeping the eggs or the chicks. The Torah tells us that we should do this L'man yitav lecha v'harachta yamim, so that Hashem will do good to you and you will live long. In the next series of Parshios, the Torah tells us just how Hashem will be good to us and what our rewards will be. The very next Parsha is the Parsha of Makkah, which is the halach of building a fence around your roof. But to have a fence around the roof, obviously you must have a house that has a roof. So you're being blessed by getting a house. When you build your house, you have to have a makkah. The next thing is the halacha of klayim. Klayim is the halacha of when you plant your field or you plant your vineyard, this is what you may and may not do. Obviously you will have fields and vineyards. The next halacha is klayim and animals. You can't plow with an ox and with a shower together, with a mule and an ox together. Therefore you must have these animals also. It goes on with shatnez, the buying of new clothes. And the final parsha there is getting married, which I suppose is a bracha someplace. We all see here the concept of what's called mitzvah gereris mitzvah. One mitzvah schleps along the next mitzvah. Hashem is makir tov. Hashem acknowledges the good that we did, and He rewards us for that good by giving us the opportunity to do more good and doing more mitzvahs and so on and so on and so on. So I will now begin by thanking my parents and my in-laws publicly for all that they have done to help us, not just as adults, but for all they did for us for all the years that we were growing up. I want to thank them for all that they do for the Einiglach. Many of us here have never had the opportunity or the zchus to be able to say that about our Zaydis or Babis or whatever. So I would like to thank them publicly. Azriel, you really can't imagine just how lucky you are to have such devoted, loving, and caring grandparents. Thanks for everything. May Hashem give all of you years, health, and strength to be with us and share many more simchas for many years to come. Let's also thank the star of our show, Azriel. You've really had to devote much time and hard work. You've had to work very hard to prepare for the weekend. Laning, davening, learning, speechifying. You've had to sacrifice hours of playtime, TV time, hanging around time, working in Toys Galore and more time. Thanks for working so hard and for usually not being grumpy or grouchy about having to do it. Thank you for making us all so proud. And now we come to the person that we really must thank. By the way, I'm not supposed to say this part, so please protect me later on. What can I say? Anything that I can say would have come out to be corny, trite, or inadequate. So let me rephrase the tefillah that we say Friday nights. And we're just going to modernize the verses a little bit. It says, Eishes Chayil Miyimtza. Who can find an accomplished woman? She's never at home. She's Bloomingdale's, Borough Park. She's always someplace shopping for the bar mitzvah, for the shul, for something. Botach ba'alev ba'ala. Her husband relies upon her, so obviously she has to go to work because her husband relies upon her. Darsha tzemer fishtin. She has to seek out linen and wool. Judy loves to sew, so she has to go again to Borough Park to find fabric, and we have to go to the dress store to buy the pattern. Batas b'chefetz kapeya, and she does work on it willingly. But then she takes it apart because it's just not exactly right, so we'll start again, and we'll try again to do it. She's like a merchant ship. From far away she brings her sustenance. She goes far away to work. She gets up in the middle of the night. Okay, so that's not Judy. All right. Lo tira levesa mishaleg. She's not afraid of snow. But if you live in Hillcrest and it's a heavy rain, you're afraid. Anyway, enough semi-comedy. Let me conclude by the final phrase of the tefillah. It says, Kuma b'nei v'ashua. Her children get up and praise her, and her husband lauds her. Without all of her hard work and hours of concerted effort and attention to detail, none of this, as Azriel mentioned, no flashy suits or ties, not the Marashah bar mitzvah breakfast, not the shul party yesterday, and most definitely not this great party. I hope that all of you are enjoying yourselves as much as I am. I thank you very much for coming, and the speeches are all finished. Baruch Hashem.